Hello. So this particular piece, very important piece to me, very personal piece to me. It's called Failure is a Phase. So I'll run down the piece. It's failure is a phase. Now, for the breakdown of the pieces, this is what I created failure with, which is like a wild, crazy character, looks evil. He's got a rocket launcher and he's blasting the individual, attacking them, destroying his, the structure of the person, blowing them to pieces. As you traverse the piece, you'll notice the is represented with a lightning strike to a pyramid structure. I used the ancient pyramids of Giza as a representation because I trace our roots, our foundation knowledge back to Africa, of course. So that's why I chose the pyramids. The A is a big piece, a part of the picture, and that represents the individual experiencing the failure. In that case, at the time, it was myself, and you have the food stamp card in his mouth representing the struggle, to feed himself and his family. So he's biting down hard on the card because he's struggling. Then you have the demon to the left of it, represents the internal struggle and the conflict that comes about having to, to struggle about that. Below his nose, as you see the trail of the blue from the police car, is the smell of danger, the smell of trouble, because on his mind, there's drug use, selling drugs. And with the usage, there's that fear of that constant danger lurking around the corner. And I use the spotlights on his eyes because when you're going through a moment in your life where you feel like you're failing, it feels like all the attention's on you, the spotlight is on you. So he's going through all these things, it's like all eyes on me because I'm screwing up right now. As you go about the piece, you'll notice the phase, the final portion. This was the most important part to me was because failure is a phase. And I use phase, I represent it with a caterpillar, the cocoon, and the butterfly phase. And that's because when you're going through failure in the beginning, you feel like you're on the ground, you're crawling about, you're vulnerable, but you haven't reached your peak yet, but you feel like you are just stuck on that ground. Then as things begin to change, you go through a metamorphosis when you become that cocoon, that hard exterior, that shell. It's hard to nothing can get into you, but it's a lot going on inside of you. And it's a lot of internal conflict, a lot of things you're going through, things you're trying to figure out so that you can get out of this phase. And once you break free of that structure, is when you morph into that beautiful butterfly. And for me, I had to fail and learn to appreciate all that there was. And this is where I am now. I went through a really tough time. I struggled with these things, but I realized those moments, they were only momentarily, they were moments in life, moments in time. They weren't permanent. And this is why, to me, this piece is so personal because it represents so many different, facets of my life back then. So this piece is titled Dreamhead. It's another one of my favorite pieces. And I'll start with the breakdown. So the young man in the middle is the individual. It's in question. He has all the dreams, aspirations, goals he wants to achieve, but he's plagued by these various issues in life that are affecting it. And I'll start with the D. The D I did with the dream bubble representing money and the struggle for finances and the power it brings. Not power in the sense of power, but power in your home, being able to feel confident in yourself, to be able to provide and take care of yourself, your family. The R on the next letter in dreams, I use the demon. And that's a big part because so many of us struggle with demons. And in our quest to obtain our dreams and our goals, we face those demons, and from time to time, they get in the way, but they're there. The third letter, E, I chose the dream bubble represented by the conflict of religion versus spirituality and finding that balance for your faith. And I often struggled with that for a long time and just finding that harmonious spot where I felt connected. And that's what this bubble represents right here. Then you move on to the A, which is represented by a woman and a man, a relationship, and she's sitting on the majority of the heart, while the man offers his piece to complete the puzzle. In this struggle for relationships, it can cause internal conflict, And I won't say get in the way of your dreams, I'm not gonna say that, but it can cause issues. The M is represented with a thing that are symbolic of life, the tree of life. The newborn baby hanging from the tree as like the fruit of the tree, and the water, all things representing life, because during that time I had young children that was struggling really bad, and to get to my dreams, it wasn't necessarily an obstacle, but they were a big factor in my thought process. They were on my mind a lot. And then the last one, which is the only bubble represented with broken shards for the S, is alcohol, because alcohol was a devastating thing that caused so much pain and turmoil and got in the way of a lot of my dreams. And it destroys a lot of people and a lot of livelihoods and families. As you go by, you'll see the monk at the bottom of the base of the head, and the monk represents the struggle for peace and internal peace, and he's fighting off the conflict. That's why you see both his hands spread apart with the sword and the energy in one hand, fighting off these wraiths, these demons that plague your mind. The literal city is a representation not just of the urban environment, but just a collection of people who will go through these similar things. And if you'll notice, there's a bridge connected to it. The bridge is a metaphor for getting out, not physically, but getting out of the mind state so that you can obtain your dreams. But you're also plagued by these demons too, and that's what he's doing, is blowing the bridge apart to keep him back. All these blue streams of energy coming out are the dreams of the many people he represents that are pouring into his head. You see his headset right here, and this outpours of all the pain that we all at some point in time in our life have faced. As you go about the picture, you'll see the demonic warrior versus the angelic warrior on each side represents the conflict, the good versus evil. And as you go to the top, you'll see a phrase that says, why should there be a limit? There shouldn't be a limit on your dreams, but these things can make you feel like there are. The robot in space is a little representation of how high he looks to aspire, but he's got to get there first. And he smokes because he can't find no relief in that. So he finds relief in smoking. But then again, that can also be a big factor that clouds his judgment and the way of getting his dreams. So this is called a dream head piece, and I really, really, really love this piece. It's really special to me.